This episode of the Sloopcast is brought to you by the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company is an Ohio-based company where they usually say our seasoning will take your barbecue from good to great. Great seasonings over at the Mad Canadian BBQ.com, such as the Kerry Steak, the Savory Cajun, Snoring Heat, and the Brits Blend. There are many, many seasonings that would fit all of your barbecuers in your life over at the Mad Canadian BBQ.com. Again, that is the Mad Canadian BBQ.com. While you're there, be sure to use that promo code Sloopcast10, Sloopcast10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Also, check out the Mad Canadian's social media sites, Facebook and Twitter, to find out where he and his food truck are heading to next. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where he has your butt covered.
This episode of the Sloopcast also brought to you by the Iron Bean Coffee Company. The Iron Bean Coffee Company is an Ohio-based micro batch roast company that is veteran owned. All their beans are USDA organic, fair trade certified. And I know I said they're from Ohio already, but I did not tell you that they're from Perrysburg, Ohio, which is just outside of Toledo. There you can get free shipping over $50. There's a subscribe and save service. If you find that, there's one or two coffees that are your coffees, there's like I said, you can subscribe and save. They have, let's see, world-class hand. Yeah, I did all that. They have a bunch of great coffees, some flavored coffees, some dark roast, some medium roast. There's even a light-ish roast. That one's called the Thor. It's a wet process blend of blend in high. It's wow. I'm gonna try that again. It's wet process blend, higher in caffeine, lower in acidity, rich tasting, filled with fragrance, and currently in my bloodstream. That's right, currently in my bloodstream. So you can find that coffee and a bunch of other coffees over at the Iron Bean Coffee Company. That's ironbeancoffee.com, America's local coffee roaster.
Let's go on YouTube and fellow Sloop Cats in the studio.
See, once again, Kyle, I'd like to point out to you that you aren't a Sloop Cat. They are the Sloop Cats. We're the hosts.
I know.
They're the fans.
Yes.
I know you're an avid listener to yourself. So, because Kyle's a little like that, if we're being honest. Spends too much time in the mirror. Buys all the good hand and face creams. If you don't know,
those hands moisturized.
If you guys don't know Kyle in real life, that's all funny because it's the exact opposite of the truth. And quite frankly, although not to a T accurate to me, much closer to me.
All right, we got a lot to get through, so let's go ahead and start the show here.
We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing all right over here. How are you doing today, Jared?
I don't really have much in the way of complaints. It's a bit rainy here. That one's for you, Suncard. That one was just for you.
We had a chance of tornadoes here yet on Saturday, so.
I was about to follow up to that, but we're done with the weather talk. We're done.
I tried Suncard.
We gave him a little. We have a lot. Kyle was right. We have a lot to get to today. This is going to be one of our first 100% football episodes in a long time. So, we were doing the March Madness thing for a while. Ohio State basketball was incredibly entertaining. Obviously let us down but we did the postmortem on basketball last week. So if that's what you're looking for today, go listen to last Monday's episode. This is 100% football. I guess 99.9% after I just said that. So 99.9% football. From here on out, 100% football. Kyle, last week we were sort of talking a little bit about, this and that. And, I kept saying over and over again, we were talking about some of the players. I kept saying over and over again, man, I want to go in depth on this position. I want to go in depth on position. I want to do like an in-depth position by position. We don't have enough time to go guess what? Now we're doing it.
Yep. Let's get right into that here, Jared.
Where should we start?
We are well over a week into practice right now, and just a lot of buzz going on. And any sites that you visit, I personally recommend the Buckeye Scoop. A lot of great information there. And if you are a subscriber there, you get a lot of great insiders by the great people over at the Buckeye Scoop.
But just for the record, a lot of the information being talked to will be sort of pulling from here is either from, and most of it, like Tony Gerdeman is essentially the shadow third member of this episode of the podcast because of how much of his reporting and articles and everything that we're leaning on. So shout out Tony Gerdeman and the entire Buckeye Scoop, who, like I said, are essentially the third member of this podcast today.
Yes, Gangland, exactly. Tasty nuggets all over the Buckeye Scoop.
There might be a little bit of a sprinkling of chicken nugget in here too. I'm just, a little bit.
All right, let's get into it here, Jared. Our favorite position here, the quarterback.
Not my favorite position, but
okay. Well, it's going to be the topic to talk about in the spring with Justin Fields leaving here. We got a three quarterback battle here. CJ Stroud, Jack Miller, and Kyle, great name, McCord.
Yes. To no one's surprise, Kyle McCord has showed up into camp and has so far been the real deal. That's no one's surprised. 5-star quarterback coming in, but sometimes guys don't quite show up as advertised, or maybe they, fart around before camp because they feel like they already have it made. Exactly. Because you just never know. Although they were high on Tathan for a long time in camp too. It's not, anyway, we're not talking about that right now. So just for the Kyle McCord's now in camp, and looking good, looking real good. Now, do I think he has a realistic chance of starting in September? I do not. I think it's between mostly Stroud and Miller. That being said, it's a long spring. I'm not saying it's impossible, but if you're going to put money on it happening, I would recommend you not put money on that happening.
Yeah. All
get really good odds.
Yeah. All three, according to sources, are getting equal reps. So Stroud, Miller, McCord getting equal reps, all showing pretty good response in terms of the read option. So all three appear, again, if you're going by reports, appear to be doing pretty well in the read option. A little bit about McCord. I don't want to say too much, though, since it is kind of, some of the information is behind the paywall of Buckeye Scoop. But McCord has, as a true freshman coming in here, done very well here. Done very well. Maybe not as much when he put that shorter pads on, but doing pretty well as a kid who should still be in high school right now.
Michigan Bucknut asks, could he get second string? I think that's more realistic. And if there's a decided winner between, I don't know if we even said CJ Stroud or Jack Miller's names yet, but if there's a decided winner between those two, yeah, I think it's especially possible that maybe one of them ends up leaving. But I'd say that's probably more likely next offseason as opposed to this offseason, but it's a possibility. And quite frankly, I think it's also a possibility that he beats out one of the two of them. I think if he beats out both of them, that's maybe of concern for Ohio State fans.
Yep. Oh, no, and that's a good point, Gangland. Dependent on football IQ, and you might see that as a trend, as some names that we're going to be throwing around here in today's episode. Football IQ and just overall just smarts in general. As some of the things that's been thrown around here. But yeah,
one of the things I think is of interesting note is I have basically Kyle McCord's arm strength apparently is next level. Even compared to the other two, his arm strength is apparently next level. That being said, that's being floated around that potentially the roster, the team itself might be gravitating towards CJ Miller a tad. So we might, if we're talking about leadership being an important quality, and for quarterbacks it is, might give CJ Stroud a bit of a nod in that direction. If we're talking about arm strength, Kyle McCord apparently maybe in the lead in that race.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things you have to keep an eye on. And the big question here is, what will be, let's not say 1, 2, 3. No, let's say 1, 2, 3. What's going to be the 1, 2, 3 coming out of camp? And is there an or? Is it a 1A, 1B situation? And I think it's gonna be a 1A, 1B situation. But I do think CJ Stroud is probably the A in that 1A, 1B situation.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2 transfer portal 3.
It's whoever's the third.
Oh,
the third
no.
Transfer.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. If one of the redshirt freshmen, as opposed to Kyle McCord, the true freshman, is if one of the redshirt freshmen ends up like decidedly in third place, I think it's within reason. I think it's within realistic possibilities that if it's like, for example, just to slot names in there, let's say Jack Miller's number 1, let's say Kyle McCord's number 2. And like, that's clear and obvious. It's not 2A, 2B. It's like 1, 2. Then CJ Stroud, I think it's a possibility he goes. And then you can also just take CJ Stroud and Jack Miller's names and swap them around. I just picked one of them at random. So yeah, all of this is completely, like I said, within the realm of possibility. Ohio State does have Jagger LaRue still on the roster. He's a 4th or 5th year senior. He's a senior. I'm not sure, 4th or 5th year. Played at Texas A&M. So he's on the roster. He's available. He's your chug type guy, your gunner type guy on the roster. So they do have a quarterback in place to be that, experienced, leader number 3 guy. As Gangland just said, God forbid.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Nope. Absolutely.
All right, Kyle. Who's number 1? September. When's the first game? Is it like September 3rd? Don't look it up. It's fine. Week 1, game 1, week 1.
You're off by a day.
2nd or 4th?
Well, that is the question. You're off the 2nd.
Okay.
At this point, this early on, I think it would give the nod to CJ Stroud right now.
That's what I'm hearing as well. Didn't our last QB3 win as a natty though? Yeah. That's of Braxton Miller, JT Barrett, and of course, Cardell Jones.
Okay.
I took my Adderall today. None of them were freshmen, let alone true freshmen. That being said, these are 3 insanely talented quarterbacks. So, because of the insane amount of offensive depth around them, I think any one of these 3 guys could take Ohio State to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably says, again, more about the people around them than strictly them. I think any one of these 3 guys could potentially take Ohio State to the playoff. But that being said, I haven't seen any of them play yet. So maybe one of them is significantly more deficient than the others. We don't know.
Yeah. All right. To spend a whole episode on the quarterbacks, but we got to move on to other positions here, Jared. Let's go on to the running backs. We got 6 running backs to talk about here, Jared. Of course, talk about Mr. Teague, Mayan Williamson, Steele Chambers, Marcus Crowley, Travion Henderson, and Evan Pryor. Now,
by the way,
Jared.
Real quick, just Mayan Williams. You threw a son on there.
Okay, my apologies. Now, Jared, if I told you that Master Teague of all of those running backs was the fastest running back on that team, would you be surprised or are you concerned?
Those are both good questions. He has reportedly lost some weight, or at least trimmed up. If he hasn't actually lost lbs.
We saw a picture a couple of weeks ago, and he looked.
I think the Ohio State PR team is trying to push Teague a little bit right now, and I think that's because Ohio State fans have turned on him. They've absolutely turned on him. There's some people who just straight up hating on Master Teague right now. So I think that the Ohio State media folk aren't blind, or I guess deaf to that. So I think that they're trying to maybe give him a bit of a get a bit of a boost. And it's not to say he's a perfect running back, but I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for, especially since he's just coming into his 3rd year now. Yep. That being said, I think this is wide open. Now, that being said, I think Master Teague starts September 1st, 2nd. September 2nd. I think Mayan Williams looked great when he came in last year. I don't think you should be counting out Marcus Crowley even a little bit. Steele Chambers has had some injury issues. What does he look like on the other side of those injury issues? Can he get back up to full strength? Has missing time during important developmental years, what has that done to? We don't know.
I think this position, Jared, is probably more wide open than the quarterback.
I guess it depends.
Well, let me rephrase that.
Because you're not going to have
by the end of the season. By the end of the season, I think this would be wide open in terms of who's going to get most of the carries, who's going to be the one who gets the most yards of these 6 running backs. I think this is going to be more wide open than the quarterbacks in my eyes.
The funny thing is that in recent memory at Ohio State, when was the last time we saw a 3 deep at running back? We've seen plenty of, okay, J.K. Dobbins, you're the guy. Go be the guy for us, J.K. Dobbins. And we've seen plenty of instances in which it's been a 2-hander. We saw the 2-hander last year. Gangland says J.K. in his 2nd year was splitting time with Weber. So we've seen 2-handed situations. We've seen the running back situations. When was the last time we saw like a true, like by committee deep run on running backs? Because I don't know if they've ever been in better position to do it than they are right now. Master Teague, much Hyde and Heron. Yeah, I mean, but that's just a 2-hander, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I'm saying here is you have Master Teague, who's better than people think he is. And by the way, he had an Achilles injury.
Yeah.
That Achilles injury is devastating for a running back. And it's kind of like an ACL. It's kind of like an ACL. You're not always the best sometimes it takes 1 year to get back on the field and then an additional year to get actually up to your ability. Sometimes it's that second year after. So will Master Teague, 2 years removed from an Achilles injury, be even better?
This year reminds me a lot of 2010.
Okay.
Buckeye team.
Did we have a triple running back in 2010?
Well, let me read you the names of the running backs that were competing in 2010. Okay.
Okay.
Brandon Sane,
mm-hmm.
Dan Herron,
mm-hmm.
Jordan Hall,
mm-hmm.
Jamal Berry,
mm-hmm.
Carlos Hyde,
mm-hmm.
and Rod Smith. It seems very similar to 2010 when we
I don't
I
think Carlos Hyde saw much of any action that year, though, did he?
No, he didn't. No, but so like you hear that list of names, you're like, ooh, like all of them did see time eventually.
Yeah. I don't, how of that list, though, are any of them better than J.K. Dobbins? Is there a star? Is there like Carlos Hyde is the best guy on that roster, but he wasn't really even playing yet. I'm assuming that's his true freshman year. So Hyde would turn into that back, but he wasn't that back yet.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone who's spectacular on there?
Ooh, I have to go to. I'm really curious.
I like Dan Herron. I like Jordan Hall. I think had Jordan Hall stayed healthier, I think he cut his foot walking his dog.
So we found out. So that year it ended up being Boom Herron.
Yeah,
who ended up getting the vast majority of the carries there. He had 216 carries for 1,100 yards. And then the next one minus prior was Brandon Sane at 70 carries.
Yeah. So, I get what you're saying as far as depth goes, but I think when you look at this list of players on this team right now, I think we look at this list 10 years from now is going to be more impressive. I think is what I'm saying. We got way off topic there.
We did, yeah. But that was my first thought when I thought of running backs. Like, all right, it was somewhere around 2010. When
all right, Kyle, we need back on the tracks, buddy. Back on the tracks. All right. So we haven't really even talked about Henderson or Pryor yet. Henderson's getting a lot of the press. During the first press availability of spring camp, they brought out 2 coaches. They brought out 2 players. One of the players was Thayer Munford, who I think from a pure seniority standpoint is the de facto leader of this team, especially on the offensive side. That's your dude right there. That is your dude right there if you're Ohio State. So yeah, you're bringing out Thayer Munford as one of those 2 players to be in front of the press. Yeah, you're doing that. Who was the second guy, though? The second guy they brought out was Trevion Henderson, true freshman running back. What does that say? What does that say that you bring out the true freshman running back as one of the first 2 players to have press availability? It was him, right? I'm not crazy, or am I? Yeah, it was. So what does that say about him? I think that says a lot that you're willing to stick him out there as one of 2 players. I think later on they did like all of the running backs had press availability, and that was different because it was just all of the running backs. But I think that says a lot. And even though Henderson's getting a lot of the press, and deservedly so, don't let that distract you too bad from Evan Pryor. Because Evan Pryor's, he's getting overshadowed a little bit, and I hope he takes that as a chip on his shoulder because he's a special running back as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, solid reports coming back from Henderson and Pryor. Crowley making some splash too. He's at kind of like that big bruiser. Who was it here that said yeah, he was a big bruiser. There was reports of him making some big hits in practice. Some talks about Steel Chambers.
Gangland,
I think we might have mentioned it a few times.
By the way, referred to Williams as a light Jerome Bettis.
Yeah,
slim is the word he used.
There have been reports of maybe Steel Chambers might be could be converted to linebacker. Coach Alford immediately turned that down and said, nope, He's staying with my group here.
You know, what does he look like healthy? We don't really know what he looks like with a great deal of health behind him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Let's get into the running or the wide receivers here, Jared.
So first thing you're going to notice when you look at the wide receivers is just the number of them. There's an insane number of wide receivers. Chris Olave, Demario McCall, Julian Fleming, Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams, Cameron Bobb, Jaden Ballard, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Emeka Egbuka, G. Scott Jr., Jalen Harris, Marvin Harrison Jr., Xavier Johnson. And that's just all, and Elijah Gardner. And that's just your scholarship guys. You got Marvin Davies, Sam I'm gonna stop. I don't know. It's just the insane number of wide receivers on this team.
Yeah. One thing Ryan Day went away with last year, and he's wanting to go back this year, is to return to a 6-man rotation. Now, I have a hard time him trying to get six guys rotating when you have 2 stellar studs.
Yeah.
And how can you get them off of the field? Like, and why would you want to?
Well, why? Did you hear all those names I just said? That's why. Because this isn't just a deep roster of wide receivers. It's a deep and insanely talented roster of wide. I mean, Kyle, it's insane. I don't know if we look back on this roster 10 years from now, I don't know if we'll ever see a greater collection of wide receiver talent in a room. It's insane.
It is just crazy. Just the talent here. Again, you could spend a whole episode just talking about the wide receivers here, but I will say one thing about this group here. Keep your eye on Harrison Jr. Making some splash early on in the spring practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do you not keep an eye on? Who do you not keep an eye on?
It's just a matter
even
of
if you look at
it's just going to come down to who's going to be making the bigger plays, who's going to be making the most impression here in spring camp. It's going to be tough because this is one of those positions where you have to make every snap count in order to see playing time in the fall.
Yeah, I just like Jamison Williams is insanely talented and completely overlooked. He's a junior on this team. Cameron Bobb, kind of like Steel Chambers, had some injury issues. And what does he look like after those injury issues? And then just like you have your trio of amazing wide receivers from last year, you add Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jaden Ballard to that mix.
In Emeka.
Of course. and by the way, one of the top 10 players in the entire country, period, Emeka Egbuka. What do you do with this list? I don't know. I throw my hands up and I say, I don't know. It's, if you had to pick 3, if Ohio State's running, if they're running an 11 grouping, which for anyone who doesn't know is 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. Who are those 3 wide receivers?
Yeah. Well, kind of going into this, Jared, I'm going to kind of scroll down a little bit here. I'm going to skip the linemen real quick here.
Gangland says Olave, Wilson, and Bob. Kyle, no, I need you to answer the question. Who are your 3 wide receivers?
All right. Well, Olave and Wilson. I honestly, from what I seen last year, I might give the knob to Williamson.
And here's the thing, and who said it? Nomad said it. Jackson Smith-Njigba. That's who I'm saying. But Kyle says Williamson. Michigan Bucknut says Williamson.
We saw how crazy fast he was in a couple of his receptions last year too.
Yeah,
get another year under your belt there.
Exactly.
You got yourself a guy who can streak down and open up some lanes there for Olave and Wilson
to work underneath.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think there's a third answer or an answer for the third player.
So kind of going to what I was just about to say here. Last year, Ohio State ran a lot of 12 personnel.
A lot of 2 tight ends.
A lot of 2 tight ends.
That's what that, just translating for anyone who doesn't know.
Mm-hmm. Will Ohio State find that second tight end? I know that Day loves getting that second tight end there with the type of offense he runs there. So obviously you got the stud in Jeremy Ruckert coming back for his senior year. Who's going to be that second tight end if Ohio State wants to run a 12 personnel? And I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot less of that just because of the group we just talked about and the talent that is there as well.
They're still insistent. We've heard it from Day and Wilson that they're going to be running a lot of 12 personnel, but I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, per what Tony said here,
I know
anticipate less 12 personnel than what they ran last year.
Well, what's rule 1, everybody? Let's come on. The chat. What's rule 1? Rule 1, the doctor lies. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Who got there first? Michigan Bucknut. Michigan Bucknut got there first.
Also, Nomad might be correct.
Also that one. That's yeah. Wilson, Kevin Wilson, that is, and Day, like, oh yeah, 12 personnel. But with all these wide receivers and all these running backs, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Being, it's Jeremy Ruckert. There's a lot of great conversation about Cade Stover, who moved over to tight end and how good he's looking. And, I think they want him to win that second tight end spot, and he very well could. But I don't see taking Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jameson Williams, G. Scott Jr., or Mecca, whoever that is. I don't see them taking that guy off the field and putting Cade Stover on the field. No offense to Cade Stover, but I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
All right, Kyle, let's do a quick ad break, then let's come back and talk about the offensive line.
I was going to say, let's do the offensive line, man. Finish up the offense, and then we could do an ad break.
Okay, let's do that.
All right, offensive lineman here. Let's see.
That in the wrong area.
Yeah,
you keep talking. Yes. You keep talking.
While you correct that. So names that's been thrown out here shouldn't be a surprise to a lot of people. Well, first off, Harry Miller, not practicing this spring, but as long as he comes back healthy for fall camp or summer camp, however you want to define that, Harry Miller's job for the center there. Other positions that we've seen here, Paris Johnson going to get the nod for guards position, Munford at right tackle, NPF at left tackle, and just a lot of practice between Matt Jones and Josh Fryer so far.
Yeah, I think we've in the past done a prediction here. We got question. Munford, Jones, Johnson, NPF. By the way, what you're saying appears, Stuart, where he said left to right, Munford, Jones, D Jones, M Jones, Johnson, NPF. I think that's the way they're going, but I really would actually, here's the thing, because a lot of people were talking about wanting, or wait a minute, you said Dwan Jones at left guard. I think Matt Jones is the guy who's getting more of the reps at guard. I think they're trying to keep Dwan Jones at tackle.
I've been seeing that they're wanting Matt Jones out there.
No, I think it's so. What I think it's going to be is going to be Munford, then Matt Jones, Harry Miller, Paris Johnson Jr., NPF at right tackle.
NPF.
That looks to be what they're trying to happen. I think that with Paris Johnson being, or rather I'm sorry, I said it right. With Paris Johnson being at right guard, I think they wanted to make sure they had a left tackle trained. And I think that is why they're going to keep Dwan Jones at left tackle. And I think at that point, then Paris Johnson Jr. becomes your right tackle backup. So should anything happen to NPF, they'll slide out Paris Johnson Jr. to right tackle. And then, they have a lot of good options at guard to then fill in at right guard. So I think they're trying to keep Dwan Jones focused on left tackle right now. And I think they're trying to, if I'm just sort of reading tea leaves here, on the right side, they're going to have NPF as your starting right tackle, but they're going to have Paris Johnson Jr. trained up to be both right guard and right tackle. So he's the starting right guard, but also the backup right tackle. I think reading the tea leaves is what they're attempting to do right now. I don't know, Kyle, what do you think? Does that sound about right to you?
That sounds about right there. That sounds about right. There could be just a lot of different people who could be plugged in to try to fill in for Harry Miller while he's out. So I'm curious to see who's going to step in. Been seeing, like I mentioned, Josh Fryer getting some time in there too. So we'll see how well he handles that and how well he looks in spring as well. So yeah, it's going to be very curious, but I definitely want by that first game, Thursday, September 2nd against Minnesota, that we have a defined group slobs that's going to be your starters. Cause I don't want we don't want anybody's like, oh, maybe we could not sure about the right guard position or whatever case may be.
Yeah, chemistry and familiarity along the offensive line is too important.
Especially when you got a new quarterback behind you too.
Well, and a first-time starting center as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
I want those 5 guys to be decided on fairly early.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, now let's do an ad read.
All right, let's go and hear from our good friends over at the Iron Bean Coffee Company, Jared.
Oh, yeah. The Iron Bean Coffee Company. I already told you why you should buy from them. Premium small batch, organic, USDA, fair trade, free shipping, veteran owned. I already told you that. Let's talk about some of the coffees. I talked about the medium light roast and the Loki. If you want to buy some Nordic God coffee, but don't necessarily, by the way, I didn't think I liked light roast either, but then I got the Loki and it's amazing. You need recommendations on your next purchase, Nomad. Oh, okay. Well, what do you like? Like you can't just say, I just can't just say, come on, I need more information. Dark. All right. Dark. My favorite dark roast so far, I think would have to be the drink from the skull of your enemy, I think is my favorite dark roast so far. It's an Indonesian coffee. It's edgier, smokier, thick, creamy, chocolatey, notes of cedar, tobacco, wine, and spice. I'm super into cedar right now. That's just a weird little tidbit for you. So yeah, I am all about, you already have one of those. Then I would recommend potentially the Fierce, dark coffee. It's 100% Arabica beans. Nothing crazy going on there. You have the Odin on subscription. So, okay, why do you need you already have 2 dark coffees that you're all about. What do you need my recommendation for? Let's not forget about the Integrity, which is the flagship roast of the Iron Bean Coffee Company. It is a mainstay, dark roasted. He says it makes the best espresso. So if you're an espresso drinker, they recommend you use the Integrity. So you can find all those coffees and actually a lot more coffees. I barely scratched the surface there. I didn't even talk about the medium roast. I'll get that in the next ad read. You can find all of that and more at ironbeancoffee.com. That's Iron Bean Coffee, America's local coffee roaster.
This episode is also brought to you by our good friend over at the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, located in Cary, Ohio, right outside of Findlay. Talk to you about a little bit about some of the seasonings that the Mad Canadian has to offer. I want to talk about one of my personal favorites box sets that the Mad Canadian has, and that is the Just Send It. What is the Just Send It? It's a combine of 4 of his most versatile seasonings. It's an all-around great collection. You can do just about anything with these 4 seasonings. Let's go over those 4 then. The S&P Bud. It's your typical salt and pepper with just a few supporting spices that go along with it. That goes along with every good barbecue that you're about to do. The Snore and Heat, one of my personal favorites. Over at the Mad Canadian, he said it started off with a taco seasoning, but quickly became one of his favorite, from using it from tacos to chicken wings to everything in between there. I personally put that on burgers. It gives it that little bit of extra kick. It's the right amount of spice and heat. Or you can go with the Cajun, the third of the Just Send It spices here. Has an extra something for your weeknight meals. Gives your food that New Orleans treatment with Cajun from the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. It's great on chicken, fish, steak, and pork. And the fourth of this box set here is the smoked. It's their all-around great seasoning that he uses around his barbecue pit, blended with smoked paprika, and it's seasoned to great taste so that so that no matter where you're cooking it, great on steaks, porks, chickens, burgers, and pretty much anything you want to put on that grill there. Check out that box set and much, much more over at themadcanadianbbq.com. Again, that is themadcanadianbbq.com.
All right, Kyle, let's talk about that defense. Defense.
Yes.
Defense.
All right, let's talk about, Jared, our defensive slobs. And I apologize if there's any noise or is a storm that all of a sudden coming through here. So another weather talk here, but we're talking about the defensive slobs here.
Just taking note
start with
of
the
how
defensive.
dark my room is and how bright your room is.
That's because I just turned on the light right now. I just turned it on.
That's my fault. That's my fault. Focus.
Defensive ends here. Tyreek Smith.
Defensive ends.
John Baptiste, Jack Sawyer, and Noah Potter.
Yeah. Defensive ends, man. Here's the thing. Like, it seems like Zach Harrison's team to take over.
Okay.
It's the vibe I'm getting. I think that he is going, like, he's breaking through this year. I'm all about Zach Harrison right now. I think Noah Potter, I think it's time for him to step up. And then there's Jack Sawyer. And all reports coming right now saying Jack Sawyer's going to be a dude. He's already a dude.
I read something on the Buckeye scoop about just how far ahead Jack Sawyer is already from a football IQ standpoint here. He's just ready to go right there. He has the mindset. He has the physicality. He's ready to just plug in and go.
And by the way, I didn't mention Tyreek Smith's name yet. I think that was a great, who's that? Gangland says he was held so much last year. Yeah. Tyreek Smith, I feel like, is probably your de facto leader in that room right now. Not that it's a overly young room. Jean Baptiste Fary's in his 5th year. Zach Harrison's in his 3rd year. Tyler Friday is a senior, I believe a 4th year senior. Sure. Don't number the rules for me, Nomad. How dare you? So I think this is this is a room with options. But I think Kyle, and agree or disagree with me on this, it's Zach Harrison and Tyreek Smith. Zach Harrison more on that rush, because they typically will do like one side's a little bit more of a rush end and the other guy's a little bit more of an anchor. So you got your yeah. So I always just say like your rush end is your like quintessential Chase Young, Joey Bosa type. And your more anchor end is more your Cameron Hayward, or lots of great guys have played that side.
Well, here's something interesting too. I know last year we talked about
Tyreek Smith is more that anchor, and I already said that. Sorry.
We'll talk about that here. We'll talk about this group after this year. But are there two just cut up and just ready to go defensive tackles that ready to go compared to what we had last year? Can any of these defensive ends come in and be that rush packet that we saw a few years ago with Bosa, where you plugged in pretty much 3-4 defensive ends and just rushed the quarterback? Because that was one thing that we didn't really see a lot last year. There was a lot of pressure. And I think we mentioned it last week's episode. There was a lot of pressure from the defensive line, just not enough in that stat book to showcase.
The guy they move inside, I think, is typically more your anchor defensive end. So in that case, I think it's Tyreek Smith potentially who you see moved inside. That being said, I don't think, I think you also look at guys like Noah Potter or Jack Sawyer. I think they'll just be looking to get Jack Sawyer on the field anytime they can. Yeah, Tyquan Lewis is another great example of a great anchor side defensive end.
He gets all the work done right in the middle and doesn't see the stats to show it. But man, you look at the film and you can just see there's that big guy just clogging up all the holes there.
Yeah. So to me, the two guys who I think are your like number ones are Smith and Harrison.
I would agree with that. Yes.
They're going to try and get Jack Sawyer on the field. There's no doubt in my mind.
Noah Potter, we can't forget about Noah Potter. I mean, just a great guy who has 2 years actually under his belt too. This could be the year. Yeah, he's had 2 years under his belt. This is his third year coming in here. Will this be his year that he starts to see the field more often?
Yeah, and I think it's just you have some of the older guys, your Tyler Fridays, your Jean-Baptiste, Javonte Jean-Baptiste. It's now or never for those guys. And, does that pressure lead to them going next level?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it as far as the defensive ends go. It's another stacked room.
Defensive tackles. I know it seemed like 2 years in a row we talked about like how stacked and how deep the defensive tackles are. What about this year? Garrett is out for the spring with a lower body injury. Going to get some more opportunities for the younger folks here. Who are we to expect this year?
I think it's a great deep room again. I would have maybe been slightly concerned had Haskell Garrett not come back, but he did. I think we're seeing Vincent come in to his third year, and I think that's huge for a defensive tackle. You have Antoine Jackson, who, this is his put up or shut up year. This is it for him.
We can't forget about Ty Hamilton as well.
Ty Hamilton, very highly ranked kid out of Pickerington, coming into his second year. So the defensive tackles, you don't expect a freshman defensive tackle necessarily to step in right away. Well, you're no longer a freshman. does Ty Hamilton start to work his way into a heavier rotation? Page has always just been a solid guy. That's, not a spectacular guy, but a solid guy.
So you look at this group here, and it's just a lot of veteran group here. To mention Vincent Jr., Jackson, a graduate, Garrett, a graduate, Cage, a senior. A lot of veterans here.
Yeah, and I think what you see are the two graduates in there, and it's their position to lose. Mm-hmm. Right? Is that fair?
Yes. Gangland asks, "Who's the freshman tackle that has been turning heads?" Well, the two freshmen right now, it's Williams and Cowan.
Jacoby Cohen. The Williams is the guy who's garnering a lot of attention right now. Yeah. And that's great. And I want him to do that. I don't see him getting significant time this year. So Is he turning a lot of heads in camp right now? Yeah, he sure is. And that's great. And we love talking about the new shiny freshman because of course it's someone new to talk about. And that's always fun. Yeah. But we'll take that information, put it in your back pocket, and we'll bring it out at this time next year. I don't see him cracking the lineup right away.
Yeah, he is a big guy already. I mean, 6'3", 330. He's actually the biggest guy on the defensive tackles right now. So yeah, he's already the biggest guy coming in as a freshman.
I think but again, you know what? Prove me wrong. I want to be proven wrong, but you don't see freshman defensive tackles get significant snaps too often.
Yep. All right. Going from a veteran line to a not as experienced line here, the linebackers.
It's filled with upperclassmen, but not a whole lot of snaps in here.
Nope. We got this. This is really the year we've mentioned a number of different players on different positions, but in this position here, the linebackers, it's got to be Mitchell. This has got to be his year to really show up here. You got a really highly touted linebacker, his fourth year now. This has got to be his year to really put up or shut up.
I mean, it literally is. This is it for him. There's no NCAA waiver that's going to let him come back. Same thing with Dallas Gant, as another guy who we heard so much about. Kevon Pope, another guy who we heard so much about.
Yep.
These are three really good linebackers, allegedly. And they were all highly recruited. We've heard great things about them. When they've been on the field, they've looked good, but we haven't seen them on the field. We had that young group who were like this impenetrable, seemingly, allegedly, group that couldn't be penetrated. And, they took up those starting spots for like 3 years. And, is it a not wanting to replace those guys who weren't always consistently all that great? Or could the Popes and the Mitchells and the Gants not take those spots from them? So what was happening there? The linebacker room, I dare say, underperformed the past couple years, although it was a lot better last year as opposed to the year before. Was no one the next class down able to take those jobs? And if so, why not? So you want to talk about put up or shut up?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's your trio of linebackers, all three seniors, all three pretty highly touted coming out of high school, with 1 year to prove it.
If you want a name that could see some time from any of those seniors, look no further than good old Tommy Eichenberg. Getting a lot of good praises, saying he's just a very, very smart, again, football IQ type of player, and name to really keep an eye out for.
I didn't think he was a senior. Who do you mean he? We moved on from talking about the senior. Yeah, he's not. He's not. He's a
yeah, he's not. Yeah,
we moved on from the senior conversation.
Yes,
the three seniors are Mitchell, Gant, and Pope.
Yeah, that if there was any linebacker who's not a senior could take one of those positions away from one of those seniors. So if I didn't make that clear, I apologize. Maybe it's some of the drink I'm drinking. I don't know, but
much like when we were talking about the defensive tackles and we were talking about Williams coming in as a freshman, turning heads, looking really good. In this linebacker room right now, you have Reed Carrico, who has also come in and is also looking really good. That being said, I don't see a freshman getting a ton of, there's a lot of people in this room, a lot of them like needing to make their impression. I think if Cody Simon, a true freshman, comes in and starts right away, I think that says something pretty terrible about all the other guys in the room. And I just kind of refuse to believe that's a possibility.
yes.
So I think Reed Carrico, much like we were talking about Williams, the defensive tackle, is looking really good in camp right now. Take that information, put it in your back pocket. We'll talk about that again next year, I think. Maybe he comes in, does some good stuff in special teams. Maybe he makes some splashes in some garbage time. But
yep.
Just want to throw it out there that Carrico's looking really good.
Yep. All right. Defensive backs, Jared.
We start in corners or safeties?
Let's start with the corners here. Who do we got? Who do we got from this very, very young defensive back group here? Sevyn Banks, Chavos, Martinez, Watts, Johnson, Burke, Williamson.
I've been corrected on this. Cavazos. 3 syllables. Cavazos. Yeah, I've been corrected on this.
All right.
Yeah, Sevyn Banks, I think, makes a big leap this year. If we're talking about the guy who goes from toughest name in the program, I think that's probably not true. But, this is the Sloopcast, so they're all tough names. Sevyn Banks, however, relatively easy. I think he's the guy who goes from like off of the NFL radar right directly onto the NFL radar. I think is the type of season I'm expecting from Banks this year. Cavazos, not a freshman anymore. You're a second-year player now. Legend, I think it's time for him to get on the field. Yes, healthy now too. I think it's a great year to own. If you want to own stock in someone right now, I think Banks and Cavazos are 2 guys you want to own stock in right now. You also have, let's see, on the corner in the cornerbacks, you have Cameron Martinez again, not quite as high as him as I am on Cavazos, but true freshman, no longer a freshman, redshirt freshman now, second-year player. It's time. Like I said, not quite as high, but there nonetheless. Hickman or Ransom, they are both safeties. We'll get there.
Yeah, and one thing that coaches are really looking for with these corners is that can they play man? That's their bread and butter that they're wanting to keep pushing, as we saw last year, and more so this year or this upcoming season too. Who can play man to man? Because more often you can play man to man, the more opportunities you're going to be able to free up an extra linebacker or be able to maybe do an extra blitz from a different position to get in there if you can play more man to man here. So that's going to be the question here. Who's going to be able to step up and be that guy? As Jared said, maybe it's Banks, maybe it's Legend.
It has to be Banks. First and foremost, it has to be Banks. It's
more press. Yeah.
It has to be Banks. The question is, who's that number 2 guy?
Yes. And that's one of our questions that we wanted to see get answered in this spring. Will a second reliable corner emerge this spring?
We're looking at Tyreek Johnson, who I feel like every year is the year he's going to step up, and maybe this one's actually it. You have Cam Brown, who, isn't participating in the spring right now. Blew out his Achilles. He'll be back. He'll be around. I don't know if the Achilles is tough for a corner. I don't know if he's going to be ready to, even by fall, if he's going to be ready to be on the field all the time. They might have to ease him back in. So I think Cam Brown has the potential to be that guy. I just don't think he has the potential to be that guy in September. So you have to, in my mind, if you're looking for the second cornerback, I think Cavazos and Johnson are the 2 guys who you're probably watching the most closely. I think after that, you then start to look at maybe some of your other young guys. Ryan Watts is a redshirt guy. Denzel Burke is on the team right now. He's the only, they have a few corners in the class, but Burke's the one that's in spring camp right now. So where do we see Burke coming in?
Yep. All right, in our safeties here.
And by the way, just for the record, it might feel a little late to be saying this. We're basically only talking about the guys who are in spring camp right now. You know what I mean? Like we've not even mentioned, if we're talking like defensive ends and defensive tackles, there's a lot of recruits whose names, the true freshmen coming in, who we've not even talked about because they're not with the team yet. So there's even more talent coming.
Mm-hmm. All right, our safeties here. Free safety, we have here Josh Proctor, Bryson Shaw, Jansen Dunn, and then our cover safety, we have Ransom, Williamson, and Hickman.
Well, first and foremost, the free safety is Josh Proctor. That's a guy who looked much like Sevyn Banks from like week 1 to the playoffs, just improved immensely. So I really like Josh Proctor. He's a senior this year. I think, once again, another undervalued stock in Josh Proctor.
Mm-hmm. Great. So the cover safety, Ransom, Williamson, Hickman. I think this one's really up in the air here, to be honest. A lot of talks about Williamson looking a lot better this spring than he has in previous years. I mean, this dude's a senior this year. Another guy put up or shut up a year for him.
Yeah.
Will he be that guy, or will it be Ransom to really take that position and just Williamson just being on that sideline again?
And I wouldn't rule out Hickman either. Ronnie Hickman, redshirt sophomore. He's coming into his 3rd year. I wouldn't rule him out. Gangland asks, could Ransom fare well in the slot, or is that a pipe dream? No, I think that's it's not a pipe dream. That's the expectation. That cover safety plays a lot, will come up and play man a lot against slot guys, tight end guys. That's the expectation for Ransom.
Mm.
The cover safety plays a fair amount of like nickel corner. I think you will absolutely see him up in the slot.
Yep.
All right, Kyle, that's all of our positions. We know it's happening with the punters and the kickers. There's only one scholarship player at each of those positions. So we know what's happening there. So let's get into some Ask Sloopcast, running a tad long. Okay, fine. Let's talk about the long snappers. Gangland wants to hear about the long snappers, everyone. I'm sorry we're going over. We're going to go even more over because Gangland has to hear about the long snappers. There's two guys. There's two guys. I don't believe either of them are on scholarship. There's Bradley Robinson and Rowan McCullough, who, yes, is the younger brother of the previous long snapper. Or not it was 2 years ago, wasn't it? All right. I don't remember. Guys,
There's your two guys.
I'm not a long snapper expert. All right. I'm over it.
All right, let's get into the questions here. Gangland. Who wins the job in the fall? Meatball or Teague ball?
Teague.
To start, Teague ball.
September 2nd, your starting running back will be Master Teague. Now, what percentage of the carries does he get is still up in the air as far as I'm concerned. Who's getting the majority of the carries in November? I think that, and who's starting in November, I think is even more open to discussion. But September 2nd is starting running back. I fully believe will be Master Teague.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Who wins the guard job, Jared? Dwan or PJJ?
PJJ.
Agreed.
They're going to keep Dwan at tackle for now.
Yep. Could Cody Simon be a Raekwon McMillan type of guy for our defense?
I mean, that's the expectation, is it not? That's the expectation. Could he be? Yeah, I think he can. Will he be? Man, I wish I knew, but I think he can be. Yeah, I really do think he can be.
Which freshman wide receiver gets the most playing time?
I don't know, man. I don't know how I don't know how much playing time last year's freshmen are going to get.
I was going to say,
I'm almost mad at Chris Olave for coming back. Almost. I said almost, but I'm almost mad at Chris Olave for coming back at this point.
The answer is maybe neither. No one.
There's three. Yeah, there's three.
No. My interpretation was that neither would see the field because of how talented.
Yeah, but this is semantical. I can't say it. There's three, so you don't say neither. You'd say none.
None. Yes.
Neither is only if there's two.
Well, if I were to pick one, if it's of those freshmen, you would go with your top 10 guy, Emeka.
Is Emeka in right now though? Because Emeka's not doing spring ball, is he?
I don't think so.
Or no, my apologies. He is.
Yeah.
All three of them are.
Yes.
So give me Emeka. Give me Emeka.
All right. Stuart asks, when does it become okay to compare football and weather?
To compare it? I don't know.
That is the correct answer, Nomad.
Okay, whatever. Next question.
Always.
Next question.
All right. Let's see. Do you see a role for 6th-year senior Demario McCall other than kick returner?
Punt returner.
Ha! There it is. That's exactly what I was thinking. But no, I think punt returner. It might be just Olave and
no
maybe
way. No way. No way they're sending him out there to return punt.
Wilson.
No way.
All right. Why shouldn't Dwan Jones be a starter?
Because you need someone practiced up to be the left tackle. You need someone who's ready to come in and play left tackle right now. And that's not him. That's Thayer Munford. Why shouldn't he start? Because he's not one of your top 2 tackles. And we don't want to move him into guard right now. You don't want your best 2, your 3rd and 4th best tackles both playing guard. You want at least one of them ready to take over at tackle at a moment's notice.
Yep. All right. Last question here from Stuart. There you go, Nomad. Why do you hate the quarterbacks that you don't think will be the starters?
Why do you hate the quarterbacks who you don't think will be the starters? Is that specifically directed at us? I don't hate any of these quarterbacks. Or is that more of a general you? Is that like you, the fan base? Because isn't the cliche always that the backup quarterback's the most popular guy in town? Isn't that the cliche? I don't know. I don't hate any of the quarterbacks. Not at this point, but I will. I promise you I won't.
Unless their name's Tathan.
I don't hate Tathan. I feel bad for Tathan.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I think he's been misdirected. I think he's been misadvised by some people close to him. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm leaving it there. All right, Kyle, that's the end of the show.
Yes, that is the end of the show here.
Before I get into my spiel, if anyone down there in the chat wants to recommend some music, now would be a great time to do it.
Yes.
Want to encourage everyone to follow us on Twitter, follow us. Just Twitter's fine. I don't care. More importantly, join the Discord. The Discord's free. You can join the Discord by going to discord.thesloopcast.com. And you can just do that there. Make sure to subscribe to both our YouTube channel and the Buckeye Scoop YouTube channel. Subscribe to both of those. And go to thesloopcast.com if you need links for any of these things. And if you're not writing down what I'm saying right now, you can simply go to thesloopcast.com and you'll find a directory of links to our t-shirt store. Kyle's wearing one of our t-shirts. I'm not. This isn't my t-shirt. But Kyle's wearing one of our t-shirts. It says We've Got Barbecue back here, or just We've Got Barbecue. We have a bunch of cool stuff both in our official Sloopcast merch store and the 7071 t-shirt store, which is sort of our offshoot. This isn't podcast merchandise, but it's still merchandise to support a podcast thing. It's a little offshoot. But anyway, it's just merch.thesloopcast.com. And then, like I said, you can just find all of those links at thesloopcast.com, including links to our Patreon. So if you want to join those wild folk down there in the chat, there we go. Then you can go ahead and do that by signing up for our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. And if you do a whole year up front, you can actually save a few bucks. I forget exactly what the percentage is, but you can pay for the whole year up front and save a few dollars. And that's it. That's all I feel like doing. Kyle, what's in Kyle's corner?
Not too much. Some news that came about that I don't really want to get into, but our favorite tight end, Nick Vannett, signing a 3-year contract with the Saints, and Eli Apple heading on back to Ohio to join the Bengals for a year. And also I want to give a shout out that, all the freshmen got to choose their numbers, Jared. I will give a shout out to Mr. Henderson for choosing a good number.
One of Kyle's favorite numbers.
Well, it was the number I wore in football. So anytime a Buckeye wears number 32, I'll give a thumbs up to them.
There you go.
But no, that's it. That's all I got. We are way over on time, but I'll let you finish it off, Jared.
Real quick. Stuart_E4US vet says, Twitter is for fake followers. Discord is where friends come to bullshit.
Yes.
So I've never heard it summarized better in my life. It's more of it feels more like the early days of Twitter where it felt like a big community, but now it's just not anymore because that's just not what Twitter is anymore. It's just an outrage box there to make you feel bad about everyone, including yourself. So yeah, come join the Discord. It's a fun little family gathering of Ohio State fans. And I guess that's it. The Nomad recommended the Tillers. The Tillers are from Cincinnati, Ohio. Pulled up their Bandcamp page. We'll be playing one of their songs. Let's see. They've been tagged with folk, acoustic, Americana roots, bluegrass, country, folk, jazz, roots, and Cincinnati. I've never heard the Tillers before, but I'm gonna trust Nomad and roll with it. And hopefully it's good. And if it's not, get mad at Nomad, not me. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. So we'll be playing the Tillers. So with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is the Tillers. You're welcome, Nomad. I don't know if that was a sarcastic thanks or not, but I'm just going to take it as genuine and say you're welcome. I want to take a nap. All right. YouTube, y'all are great. Make sure to, like I said, follow us everywhere. I guess you should also like the video, or excuse me. I need to do the YouTube thing of like, yo, smash that like button. You have to smash it. You can't click it. You can't press it. You have to commit like an actual act of violence against the like button.
You got to smash it and leave a comment down below.
Committed genocide against the like button and leave a comment down below. Drop a nuke on that like button. It just keeps escalating.
All right, well, let's end it before it escalates any further.
Use a low orbit ion cannon against that like button.
Right, let's end it before it gets any worse.
Once again, I'd like to thank the Tillers for ending today's show. And want to thank the Iron Bean Coffee Company for sponsoring today's show. Let's see. We talked about why you should buy from them, veteran-owned, Ohio-based, fresh and organic, and all of that stuff. Talked a little about the light roast and the dark roast. So now let's talk about some of the medium roast coffees. The medium roast coffees, including maybe I have two of the mediums. Two of them are my favorite. I can't choose between the two. I just can't. There's the cast iron, which is a medium roast, 100% single origin Arabica beans. Honduran Arabica beans. It's what's in the coffee and Q. If you've ever had that from our good friend over at the Mad Canadian, and it's just sort of like a straightforward, simple medium roast. But obviously, straightforward and simple aren't bad things by any means. And then the Ride or Die is also amazing. Gentle, distinctive version of the classic American breakfast cup. Brazilian yellow bourbon coffee bean, superb smoothness and flavor. I can't decide which one of those two are my favorite medium roast, but they're both excellent. I've also had the Rage Against the Dying of the Light, and I thought that was tremendous as well. Just because it's not in my top two doesn't mean it's not probably better than what most people are drinking right now. I'm just saying it. If this coffee is probably better than whatever you're drinking right now, unless, of course, you're already made the switch over and are drinking coffee from the Iron Bean Coffee Company. So if you're already doing that, then maybe not. But if you're not, this is probably better than whatever coffee you're drinking right now. I'm just going to say it. It's better than whatever you're drinking right now. You can buy some for yourself over at the Iron Bean Coffee Company. It's ironbeancoffee.com, America's local coffee roaster.
This episode was also brought to you by our good friends over at the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. Talked about their first of their 3 box sets. The third one, of course, is the whole hog, which is one of each of the great seasonings. But I'm going to talk about probably my favorite of the box sets here, and that is the Sweet Heat, or as I like to call the wing set. Now, why do I call it the wing set? Well, it has a little bit of everything for your wing sets. It's a little heat, some sweet, some both. You get 4 great seasonings, including the 4 Horsemen, which is probably his hottest seasoning. Consists of 4 different hot peppers. Don't worry about it. If it's just too hot for you, you're going to enjoy that. You're going to enjoy that heat that lingers, but still gives you that flavor that wants you to grab some more. You can go with the Discord. A little bit on the easier side than the 4 Horsemen. Still pretty spicy, but it has that blend that was fantastic. And it's a little bit sweeter if you're looking for that, a little bit sweeter to put on maybe your ribs or even on a chicken breast as well. Go with the old fashioned. It's our most interesting spice. It's maybe called the classic drink, sweet, bourbony, and the right amount of bitter in it. But you can't go wrong with the old fashioned. Or you can go with the 2 border there. He says the 2 border is his flagship seasoning. So if you're looking for, hey, which seasoning, look no further than the 2 border. Maple sugar, red pepper flakes. He uses it on all of his ribs. Gives it that clean, crisp, sweet flavor, while the red pepper flakes adds that just right amount of heat onto his pork. Also goes great on eggs and bacon as well for your morning routine. Yeah, it does. Check out those great seasonings over at themadcanadianbbq.com. Again, that is themadcanadianbbq.com. Be sure to use that promo code Sloopcast10, Sloopcast10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where he has your butt covered.